Hi Tucson, Heather McClaren here with Long Realty, and we are here for the 5 at 5. I'm in Oro Valley today, and we're going to be talking with one of the veteran appraisers here in Tucson and Oro Valley, Mr. Bruce Baier of Baier Appraisal Services. Say hi, Bruce.
Hi, Heather. Good afternoon. That's
today.
Glad to be here and glad to help educate.
We have so many questions from buyers and sellers and even homeowners when it comes to appraisals. Can you give us a little information you think we need to know that would be helpful and help us understand a little bit more about what you do when you come out to our house?
It's a good question. There are a number of things that people do not understand, and what we talk about is an appraisal inspection. Many people think of that as an inspection as a home inspector, and there are two different things. We are here viewing the property. We are not here as a home inspector. So some of the differences where a home inspector will go and look at some of the same things we do, they will go more in depth with the property itself, the physical aspects of the property. As appraiser, we look at physical aspects of the property, but we look at many other aspects because we're valuing the property. And we're making comparisons with other properties, as opposed to a home inspector who's really concentrating on just the subject property at that point in time. Bruce Baier with Baier Appraisal Services here. There are many definitions of value. The most typically used definition of value for real estate appraisers is market value, and even there are many different definitions of market value. However, I wanted to let you know today the one that is typically used for lending purposes. And I'm going to read part of this, so bear with me. The following is the definition that's used by agencies that regulate federally insured financial institutions in the United States. So that's most of your mortgages that are bought by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. So here we go. The most probable price that a property should bring in a competitive and open market under all conditions requisite to a fair sale, the buyer and seller each acting prudently and knowledgeably, and assuming the price is not affected by undue stimulus. Implicit in this definition is the consummation of a sale as of a specified date and the passing of title from seller to buyer under conditions whereby, and I'm going to stop here for just a second to say there are 5 specific conditions, and this is important to understand so that you understand when we are appraising market value, we are looking at comparable sales typically for comparison here. So each of those comparable sales needs to be either a market value market transaction, or if it is not a market transaction, meaning that there would be some adjustments for seller concessions, whereby maybe the seller is paying some closing costs for the buyer, or the lender's closing costs, things along that line. So these 5 conditions are: buyer and seller are typically motivated, both parties are well informed or well advised and acting in what they consider their best interests. Next is a reasonable time is allowed for exposure in the open market. And then payment is made in terms of cash in US dollars or in terms of financial arrangements comparable thereto, and the price represents the normal consideration for the property sold unaffected by special or creative financing or sales concessions granted by anyone associated with the sale. I want to take this just a step further so you understand a couple of the different things. First one is buyer and seller are typically motivated. So if we have a situation, for example, where the seller is desperate and needs to get out of it for any number of reasons, maybe the property's in foreclosure, or maybe it's a divorce or an estate sale or something else along that line, where the seller needs to sell, that is not a typical motivation. So there may be adjustments that are necessary for that particular comparable sale if we're using a sale that is not typically motivated, has these other situations. Both parties are well informed or well advised and acting in what they consider their best interest. So we're assuming that you have some intelligent buyers and intelligent sellers here, and they are advised properly, and they're considered acting in their best interest. In some cases, you may have somebody that doesn't understand what's going on in the particular market, and so they may pay more than a property is worth because they haven't really analyzed or looked at the market and been well advised. The third item here is a reasonable time is allowed for exposure in the open market. And one of the things about that is typically it would be exposed on the open market, and that typically would be a property that's listed with a real estate agent or a realtor. One of the things that happens here is that sometimes properties are listed for a long period of time. Sometimes they may be listed for 60 or 90 days. It didn't sell, and so they take it off the market and it comes back on the market. So now we get not only the number of days in the market, but if it's relisted again, we get cumulative days in the market, so we add those together. Well, one of the things about a property not selling oftentimes is the price. If a property is priced too high, that is pretty much a red flag that it will not sell or won't sell at that price. If a property is listed at an excessively high price and doesn't sell, and then the price keeps dropping and dropping and dropping, and it's finally sold, where is it really on the market at a reasonable time and exposure? Well, the exposure really inherently means that it's priced properly as well too. So if a property is way overpriced for a period of time, there are times I would make a comment that pricing is not reasonable, and we start looking at what was a more reasonable number of days on the market. The fourth item is payment is made in terms of cash in US dollars or in terms of financial arrangements comparable thereto. And really what that means is that the buyer is getting cash. So typically the seller is actually paying cash, or the seller is getting a loan from a third party, such as a lender or some financial institution. As opposed to seller finance, because seller financing can affect the price of a property. And the fifth item is the price represents the normal consideration for the property sold unaffected by special or creative financing or sales concession granted by anyone associated with the sale. And this goes back to what I was talking about a minute ago, and that's in terms of if the seller actually is paying some of the closing costs for the buyer, or paying loan points, or paying other considerations so that the buyer can actually purchase the property. Those would be especially come into consideration when I'm looking at comparable sales, and if a comparable sales have those special conditions, I would be looking at the need to make adjustments for that, and typically those are downward adjustments. As an example, if a house is listed for $300,000, sells for, let's say, $290,000, and the seller is going to pay $5,000 towards the closing cost for the buyer, that $290,000 sales price is adjusted downward by that $5,000 typically, and so the adjusted price would be $285,000, and I would continue to adjust from there up and down for different aspects of the house.
Bruce, thank you so much for watching our first in a series of 5 videos on appraisals with Bruce Baier of Baier Appraisal Services. Please check back next week, where we're going to answer a lot more of your questions and get into some of the fun nitty-gritty stuff of questions that sellers often have, and buyers too, about appraisals, and get you the information you need to succeed in the Tucson housing market. Have a great week, and don't forget to like and share, and please subscribe and hit that bell to keep receiving great information and become part of our 5 at 5 community. Have a great week. Thanks, everybody. Bye.